I believe the small business owner panel just finished, so we might have a few people trickling in, but I think we can go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining us for How Small Businesses Can Navigate COVID-19. My name is Erica Adams and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, you may have heard this in other sessions, but just a few housekeeping items. All lines have been placed on mute, so if you would like to share a comment or ask a question with us, please go to the chat box in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and submit your question. We'll go over questions at the end of the presentation, so we'll have time for any additional questions that come up as John shares his content with us. And just so you know, the session will be recorded and shared with you at a later date this week, so you'll receive an email of this recording in case there's anything you missed and would like to hear again. So I would love to introduce to you today John Tile, our speaker. He is recently retired with 42 years of experience in the defense industry. He's had various leadership roles in engineering, logistics, and program management. He now leads his own consulting company. He is an adjunct professor at Elizabethtown College and is the chapter chair and president of the local SCORE chapter, which, if you're not familiar with SCORE, they're a nonprofit organization that offers mentorship to small businesses. So John, thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks, Erica. Really appreciate it. And everyone, thanks for joining us. Hopefully this will be a great session for you all to help you as small business owners to navigate COVID-19. Of course, as you can see from the picture on the screen, you'll see my video. I haven't had a haircut like most of you haven't had haircuts probably. So I got a little bit more hair, even though it's still thin. But welcome, and hopefully I can give you some information that will help you. So we're going to test technology here. I am going to share my screen. Hopefully you all can see it, and let me put it in presentation mode and we'll get started.
Yep, looks good. Thank you, John.
Great. Well, first off, thanks Erica and Deluxe for putting this on. I think it's really important. The small business, you know, that's the lifeblood of our economy, and we really need to do whatever we need to do to help small businesses. I hope this will give you some information to help you navigate this crazy time that we're in. Now, I'm going to be general today because every industry and business, of course, as you know, is unique and special. But at the end, I'll give you some resources that you can tap into that will help get you the specific one-on-one mentoring that SCORE provides for free. Everything is free that we do. I'm a big community service guy. When I retired, I didn't want to just sit around, and I can't golf every day. I want to give back to the community, and that's why I've taken this role on with our local York, Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area SCORE chapter. We cover 5 counties in that area. But hopefully that this information that I give you is going to be helpful. I do want to bring up what Amanda said. Amanda Brinkman, the Chief Brand Officer at the keynote. She said something I thought was really critical that all of us need to remind ourselves. We didn't start our businesses because we were weak. We started our businesses because we were strong. And I think that that's true, and that strength is what we all need to conjure back up again when we started our business, and as we navigate through either a closure or reopening your business. And the other thing is I want to remind everyone, although it may seem like you're alone, you're not alone. There's a lot of resources out there. SCORE we partner with the Small Business Administration. Our chapter has had online panels that have helped our small businesses in our area navigate through the injury loans, the employment injury loans, the PPP loans, and the CARES Act. And the Small Business Administration, although they've spent hours during the day filling out paperwork and trying to do things, they spent hours at night when we had our panel to further help. So I got to give them a shout out for the Small Business Administration. So SCORE has put together, and actually our Cape Cod chapter put this together, and it will be on our website that's shown at the bottom of the screen, and it will be on the SCORE national website that I'll cover at the end of the session here. It'll be available on that national SCORE website soon. But we've come up with a 4 A reopening your business toolkit is 4 steps, and I'd like to kind of just introduce them now. But before that, I want to talk about what the small business, the National Small Business Association, the NSBA, did an impact poll conducted in March of this year of all small businesses across the nation. And here's what they found coming from you all, and you're probably part of some of this. You feel this way. 77% of small business owners are very worried about the economic impact of this pandemic. 54% expect the U.S. economy to fall into a recession or worse during the next 12 months. And 49% say customer demand is down. I mean, those are just staggering numbers that you, the nation's small businesses, have come back with in this poll. But I want to stop and have you think about one more thing. This is what you and the other small business owners are saying. What do you think customers are saying? This is another challenge that you're going to have to get through because customers are feeling the same thing and they're worried about their own safety as we and you reopen. So here's our business toolkit. I'm going to go through it. It's a 4-step process. The first step is assess. Assess your business. Do an accounting of your business. Plan, so taking the results of your assessment and your accounting of your business and taking that and developing a plan on how you're going to address the issues you've identified in the first 2 steps. And then, of course, the biggie is communicate. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But before we go through these, I want you to ask yourself 2 big questions. And these could drive and will drive this toolkit in these 4 steps. The 2 big questions are, what is the current status of your business? Are you closed? Are you partially open? Are you fully open? If you're closed, are you going to be reopening soon? Or if you're partially open now, are you going to fully open? And how are you going to do that? And then how much physical interaction do you need with your customers? You know, are you all online and you have little interaction? Is there both where you have a moderate interaction? Or are you fully engaged and you need physical interaction with your customers? All those are going to drive how you assess, account, plan, and communicate going through this SCORE's Reopening Business Toolkit. The other thing that as you look through these, as you go through this toolkit and these 4 steps, you're going to have to figure out how you go forward in your current business model, but also if you have to pivot. And that's where you reimagine your business. And I'll give you some examples of some of what our SCORE clients and the clients we have across the country have done, just a few. But a lot of this has been covered or will be covered in a lot of the sessions you have today that you've had or looked at today. There's a lot of common themes here that you're going to see, and we didn't necessarily coordinate. I'm telling you, it's the similar themes that you need to do as you look at reopening up your business. So let's first talk about the first part or first step in the process. Assess your business. You really got to start to understand what will drive your future business in these new normal. It's going to be a new normal, as we all know, at least for some time yet. And in that, you have to ask yourself questions like, what will be important to your customers and employees as you reopen? And I'm telling you, no customers, no business. But also employees are a critical factor too. We all know before this COVID-19 pandemic, it was hard to get people. As everyone starts reopening, there's going to be this demand for people. What do you have to do? And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But think about what's important. Do they have fears? Of course they do. Both customers and employees. Will they be reluctant to engage in your business? Again, will the customers be reluctant to engage in your business? And will your employees be reluctant to come back? So what we're recommending our clients do through this toolkit is to list the potential barriers that both your customers and your employees have, and then you have to look at addressing them in the planning phase. You also then got to look at how are you really doing financially? We all hear that cash is king, but you got to look at going forward now, and what does that financial picture look like? Now, we're recommending our clients to create different versions, an optimistic one, a low income one, and a likely version. We have a lot of free templates on score.org, www.score.org. And there's a cash flow. All you have to do is go in the top right. There's a search. It's a really good search function. Look at cash flow spreadsheet. Download that. And then you can play with your reopening timing. And then, of course, you got to start gathering your financial records if you haven't already, including leases, tax returns, all those things, so that you can get a true picture of where you were and where you think you're going to go. Consider your expenses, including payroll. We're telling our clients, and in this toolkit, divide them into must-haves, nice to have, and don't need. This is going to be critical when I go to the next few slides. And then, don't forget, you can negotiate with those who owe you money, or that you owe money to, sorry. And the big thing here, and I saw it in other sessions this morning, it's about documenting. So if you call someone and you're negotiating a lower payment or a different time schedule, follow up with an email documenting what you covered. That will be your artifact that you will need to go back if there are any issues. And tell them to respond to you in your email to say, hey, did I get it all right? And then log those and keep those emails for your reference. And let me just give you a personal aspect for this nonprofit, the Susquehanna SCORE that I lead as the chapter chair / president. A nonprofit, although it's not as critical as small business owner, we don't have to make profit, but nonprofits are not negative profit. My revenues have to be equal to my costs. I got to offset them. I can't go negative. So I personally have had to look at our budget, have had to look at our costs. I called Comcast, for example. We've been kicked out of our space because we can't go to that space. So we negotiated Comcast down to say, hey, give us a break in the next couple months until we get back up and running. And they were kind enough to do that. We've negotiated with our printer provider to negotiate lower rates until we, as a nonprofit, can get back into business. And by the way, we've also had to pivot. We used to do face-to-face mentoring. Now we're doing things like this, Zoom or Skype, with our clients to help get them through this. So we're still mentoring and we're still open for business, but in a different way. So now the second step, to account. Account for your business. What do you need to survive? How much cash do you need? Key questions that you have to ask yourself. We're recommending our clients review the cash flow options. It'll become apparent how much you will need to reopen and cover for your first few months. And remember, previously I mentioned, your optimistic and your low income and your likely scenarios that you have to plan for or think about. And then here's the tough part. And let's face it, all of you small business owners out there have had to make the tough decisions before. And this is no different. We're recommending our clients to cut early, cut big, depending on your circumstances and your industry. And we're telling them to double their estimate. It's far better to assume a slower start and a longer recovery than the opposite. It's better to adjust to the worst case scenario than expecting the best and then going backwards, because the next round of cuts are not good for you, your company, or your employees. Elaine Wyatt, she's the CEO of Women Ventures, and she and Brian McDonald from the SBA were in an earlier session. And they hit home that, you got cash is king. You really got to look at your cash flow options. And on apparently on CEO on the Women Venture website, and I'm sure you can get this after this session. They're putting out, I guess, the recording of this session. She also had a cash flow Excel file that she said she would share. So I tell you all to take advantage of whatever you can find out there. And again, I can't recommend enough the SCORE website with templates that we have. Now, continuing on with step 2 on accounting for your business. Hey, what are your customers telling you, or what are you hearing about your customers? No customers, no business, as I mentioned. We can all reopen, but if customers don't engage, we can't succeed. If you're a retail outlet, what do you need to rethink your retail layout to accommodate social distancing? Are there cleaning and disinfecting policies that you need to enact and document in your processes and procedures if you have that? Or should you be doing more of your business online? And where do you hold your client meetings? Let me give you some examples, though, that some of you may or may not know. For those golfers out there, I can tell you that the local golf course, what they've done is limit number of people inside the building, inside the clubhouse. They have arrows on the rug, and they have now ingress, egress, different ingress, egress, or entrance, exit processes, so it maximizes social distancing. They're also going over and they're communicating. We'll talk a little bit about that in the 4th step, but they're communicating what they're doing. They're showing people what they're doing. As a customer, as I mentioned earlier, we have fears. I have a fear. My wife, I know, is not going to probably want to go to a restaurant for a little while after after restaurants reopen. But communicate. They're communicating what they're doing to make us as customers feel better about using their services. And it's kind of like, the other thing I think you have to keep in mind is when you show people, the customers, what you're doing, if you take care of your employees, a lot of customers see you taking care of your employees, and they say, if they take care of their employees, they're going to take care of me. So I think that's an important aspect that you need to consider or think about. It's kind of like corporate social responsibility programs that the big companies have. A lot of people go to Apple products because they tout how much they're concerned about the environment in their product development and manufacture, how much they're concerned about our privacy. That's why a lot of people buy Apple products. They're more expensive, but they think that they do the right thing. That's the other thing you have to think about as a business owner. But I want to, say that Jason Pawlowski and Chris Yerkes had a session called The Secrets of E-Commerce Success earlier. And they made the big statement of it's all about the customers. And I think that's really, really important for you as a business owner as you reopen or start to reopen. So now let's go to the 3rd step of the plan. And I've broken up this planning into 3 separate areas: the business model, human resources, and process. So what changes will there be in your business model? What do you need to do? What are those changes you're going to need to make? Can you or should you pivot to a new business model that transforms what you do and how? Is there an opportunity to improve your business to eliminate some of the constraining issues you had in the past? For example, one critical supplier versus multiple suppliers for critical parts. I'm going to mention this again later, but we had a client that was relying on a supplier and they went out of business. They could not survive, and now they were stuck. So now they're jumping in and trying to get another supplier. This is an opportunity before you lose that critical supplier. Do multiple sourcing for suppliers so you have maybe 2 or 3 that can provide those critical parts that you need to run your business. What will your new model look like? You're going to have to recreate the customer employee experience. Safer, more efficient, more effective. Like I said, with the golf course showing me as a customer, they've also had all their employees in masks and in gloves, and when they're disinfecting, and those are things that we as customers look at if they're taking care of their employees. It goes back to that. Also, maybe you are kind of reopened, or you're just partially open, or you're about to reopen. Maybe you bring your employees back and put those idle resources to work. I'll give you an example, a personal example. my grandson works at a restaurant in the kitchen. Well, they brought him back and they started to spruce up the outside. He did power washing. He didn't like it, but he was employed. And they kept him engaged. Like I said earlier, we're going to have to get these employees back. You're going to have to get these employees back. Now's the time to think about how you can do that, and this is one way. And partner with those that can help create new events, new services, new opportunities. Deluxe has services that they can provide. Take advantage of that. SCORE, SBA, and we'll go over that at the end. And then define other revenue or funding sources. Keep up to date on the EIDL programs and the PPP and the CARES Act. The SBA is a great resource, and they are working their butts off to try to help us as small businesses. And I can't thank them enough of what they're doing. At least, we had a local SBA person that was wonderful. Then you got to look at protecting your existing revenue and what you can do. And develop physical accommodations to help customers feel more comfortable, safe, like I just mentioned on that golf course. One thing I want to go back on the protecting existing revenue. One of the biggest hard hit industries is this, other than the restaurant hospitality industry, is our clients are the salon owners, the people that cut hair, which I can't wait for my barber to get back open. They're looking at their inventory and what they bought before and what they can sell. Maybe moving that to online, or they're selling it outside in a contact-free, if you will, social distancing mode. Those are some of the clients that we have that hopefully you can learn from them. The second part of the plan, or the sub part of plan, is HR, staffing. Some questions you got to look at. What level of staffing do you need to reopen? Short-term, intermediate-term, long-term. Will your staff be available? What do your customers need right now? What do your employees need right now? Partial reimbursement for lost wages, equipment, supplies to work from home, those kind of things. But I want to focus on the last part. Be human. I know it's kind of hard when you're stressed like this. Your loyalty and honesty will go a long way to impact your future right now. Get your employees engaged. Maybe ask them to brainstorm. Explain your decision process where you can. I have a lot of clients, they're entrepreneurs and they started with their niche, but they're not big into communicating and they're not big into explaining themselves because they own the business. But now's the time to keep your employees engaged and just describe what you're doing and why you're doing it. It's maybe not good for them, but at least they'll understand that you're compassionate and you're trying to do whatever you can. The other part is training and retraining. What kind of training will you need and how much? How to disinfect, what to wear when you disinfect. Prepare your team for the new normal. And train while you're closed if you can. We had clients that even though their employees weren't being paid, they were laid off, they invited them to staff meetings, or they had these Zoom meetings, and some of them attended, even though they didn't get paid. Now you have to be careful from that perspective, from an HR perspective and a legal perspective. Talk to your team. You all should have a banker and a legal representative and an insurance person, an accountant, and maybe an HR professional. But work with them to see what you can and cannot do. And then the third subpart of the plan is the process. Supply chain is really critical, as you all know, as small businesses. If you're buying any kind of raw materials or any kind of parts or any kind of service from someone else, you got a supply chain. We're recommending to our clients, contact all your suppliers to ensure they are or will be open and be able to ship your orders. Renegotiate as much as you can. Terms. Remember, you're asking those that you owe money to negotiate. Maybe they're going to need you to help them too. So the bottom one is be team players best you can, because you need these people as much as they need you. And then there's inventory management. How do you handle out-of-date seasonal merchandise? Can you return it? Should you mark it down? Can you sell it? online. That's what I've mentioned to salon owners that are doing in our area, that they're trying to sell their product, but they're also trying to see when they're going to reopen, because how much of that product should they need. But that's where you look at those out-of-date, seasonal, or those perishable items. As long as they're within their dates, you can sell them. And what are the right levels of your new inventory going forward? It's really critical that you look at these two pieces for your reopening plan. So let's talk about the last piece, which is communication. To me, this is truly critical. Sure, assessing and accounting, I assume that a lot of you, if you've been closed for how long we've been in this mess, for 60 days, if not more, you've probably looked at your cash. You've probably looked at a lot of the things we talked about. Now it's about communicating. You got to communicate your plan. And you got to look at your stakeholders. I know that Amanda Brinkman in her intro said, when you got to look at what, how, and where you sell. So some of that in your communication plan is kind of the same. I add, though, in this, to who. Who do you communicate your plan with? Creditors, lenders, landlords, utilities, insurance. Like I mentioned, I negotiated with Comcast. Current customers, potential customers, and employees. You have to communicate to these stakeholders. Communicate your plan. Be open and honest about communicating to your plan. Tell them the issues that you're having. I think they'll respect you more and be able to help you more. As I mentioned earlier, our chapter put on an online panel Q&A. We had 4 of them, 3 in a row and each week, 1 a week, and then we skipped a week and had a 4th. And in there we had lawyers, we had bankers, we had accountants. The bankers were, and we had a lot of questions saying, oh, well, my bank is going to just be kind of a hard-nosed with me. And the bankers, the 2 bankers we had said, I don't know what bank you're going to, but it's in the bank's best interest, as well as your interest, to work together. And so if you have a plan, communicate that. Even better, I would say to you, while you're assessing in that first step, and while you're accounting in that second step, and while you're planning in that third step, get your team involved, the banker, the lawyer, the insurance, the accountants. Get your team together to help. The earlier, the better, in my experience and with our clients that we have. So what do you communicate? You got to create a relevant message, and it's different for each. Just like I can't advise you specifically today because many of you are in different industries. That's why I'm going to recommend at the end what you should do. But you have to look at each one of those people you communicate to and develop that relevant message. And think about what's important to them and how you can help them. Go to a landlord and say, I've been here 10 years. You don't want me, or 5 years. You don't want me to leave. I know you don't. Can we work out a deal? And here's what we can communicate together. Reaffirm your value prop, and that's what that's doing. I've been here, a loyal tenant for so many years. Please work with me. And then finally, there's the how. What is the right way to communicate? I know Deluxe has a lot of services around this area that can help in which ways you can communicate to each of your stakeholders. Of course, there's social media, and a lot of you are going, hey, I know a lot of my clients, they're really scared of going online. They don't know anything about search engine optimization, which is SEO on this slide. You're not alone. There's resources out there to learn because this is the time. Maybe traditional media is okay still, but maybe there's person-to-person written or digital communication you need to undertake. Maybe you need to have Zoom calls. Those are some things you need to look into as you look at reopening, or even if you're closed, to get ready to reopen. So I wanted to give a little bit of some success stories of clients in our area just maybe you to get some energy around. A lot of other sessions went into much more detail than I will, but I thought I'd share that with you. A couple of our clients, or many of our clients, provided medical or cloth masks to their workers. I have a client that's a small machine shop that has been hurt, and they've had to adjust they're allowed to open, but they had to adjust their workload because of some of their customers were shut down. They staggered the shift to reduce inter-worker risks, which I thought was, very, very novel. And then between each shifts, then they're sanitizing heavily around their shifts while there's reducing that inter-worker risk. So those are some ways that a couple clients of ours that we're working with are doing. Some are really communicating to their employees continuously. I mentioned this as I've gone through my session here. If they're being paid but working from home, they conduct online video staff meetings. And it's not just that staff meetings around, when they're going to reopen or their adjusted, work hours. But they've talked about personal health and mental stress and kind of just listened as small business owners. And they're telling, the one client that I have told me that none of her, her employees, some of them, this is the one I mentioned to you, they're not being paid, they're on unemployment, but they want to join on their own because they want to keep hearing, because they intend to come back, because the owner is so forthright with what's going on in her business. And then, of course, now's the time to reinvigorate your process improvement efforts. We all remember that when we were busy before COVID-19, we didn't have time. Take the time now to look at process improvements. Look at your costs. How can you be more efficient? And then I mentioned already the alternative suppliers that you can develop and those work methods as you reopen. So now just a few success stories of the clients that have pivoted their business. Again, this has been more in depth covered in other sessions, but I thought I'd just share with you some of in our 5-county area that we serve in our Susquehanna SCORE chapter, some of them that have done, and in Pennsylvania, and some of the other SCORE chapters in our area. So distilleries, you've heard of this, now making hand sanitizer. Here's 2 examples, one in Middletown and one near Philadelphia. It's just, that's what they're doing. It's a smart thing. Who would have thunk? Who would think that you providing alcohol, would you ever think of a hand sanitizer? These are businesses that are doing it. On the video in the keynote that Amanda showed, she showed a manufacturing company that now we're making the personal guards, and they're doing well. I listened to another session that Amanda was hosting, a company called Woodchuck. They kind of pivoted some of their manufacturing around making shields and masks. So, there are other companies out there doing it. It's about looking at what the customers, whoever your customers are, maybe they're your current ones, maybe your potential ones, what customers and what people need at this time. And I had a client that was a personal trainer. He was really pretty upset, as you can understand. He got people that were close, that could drive to his business in the close proximity. He needed to go through that, needed to touch them, needed to show them what to do. He didn't know what to do. We talked about online. He now has converted that, has a successful online personal training business. I think Amanda at the keynote mentioned about a dance class company in Atlanta, Georgia. People are changing and pivoting, and they're being successful, and you can too. So in closing, you can do this. I'll go back to what Amanda said. We didn't start our business because we were weak. We started our businesses because we were strong. This is the time to be strong, and you can do this. But I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do this alone. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that I have mentored over these. I've been a mentor. Now I'm the chapter chair for Susquehanna SCORE, but I've been a mentor for 12 years now. The clients that I have mentored, the entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurial spirit that they have is fantastic. Sometimes, though, they think it has to be done by them themselves. And I ask all of you to rethink that if you have that feeling. We are here to help you. Deluxe, everyone is here. There's resources that you can find that can help you. So the first resources I recommend you go to is your team, your banker, your lawyer, your accountant, your landlord, your insurance guy or gal, your board, whatever you have. Get them engaged if you haven't already. The Small Business Administration, the website there is a fantastic resource. Deluxe.com, I know it'll be in this when they videotape this and you can read it, but I know Deluxe will put out, they have a coronavirus section full of resources. Use them. You know, there's industry associations that you can belong to and chambers of commerce. And like in York, Pennsylvania, a partner of ours is the York County Economic Alliance. And in Harrisburg, we have the Harrisburg Chamber of Commerce. Partner with them. Those are people that are, can help you as a small business owner. And I can't just stress your industry association enough because they're going through it and they probably have specifics for your business alone, and you're specific to your business. And then SCORE, I'll put a plug in for SCORE. The plug is, I don't get any money for this. I don't get paid for being the chapter chair or president. It's just my way of giving back to the community. And what many chapters have done, and we formed a back to business advisory team. And they're learning about all the things that they have this toolkit. They're expanding on this toolkit, and they're going to be a resource for all of you to tap into. So what I recommend you all do is check for the SCORE chapter near you. Of course, I'm in the York area. We serve the York, Dauphin, Cumberland, Perry, and Adams counties, the 5-county area where I'm at, but they're all around across the nation. Search it. So how do you find that? How do you find it? Well, here's what I recommend. Go to www.score.org/find-mentor, or you just go to score.org too, and you can find it and search it. You can search your chapter via your zip code. It's as simple as that. Use your zip code, and you can find a mentor that can help you, and will schedule a one-on-one session. It's all confidential. We can review financials together, and again, it's confidential to you and the mentor. We will do surveys afterwards to make sure we've matched you with the right mentor. What I ask you to do, though, when you do contact SCORE, tell them the type of business you're in and the specific help you need. Give you an example. If you're a drone, we had a drone business that didn't tell us they were in the drone business and they needed some technology help. We matched them with an older financial analyst, business owner mentor. That wasn't the right match. So please make sure you're as specific as possible so that we can really dedicate our mentor and resources to you as an individual small business owner. We're here to help. Please use us. Thank you.
Thank you, John. It doesn't look like we have any questions just yet. So if anybody does have a question, go ahead and submit it in the chat box in the lower right-hand corner. We'll give it just a few minutes to see if anybody has a question. Otherwise, we'll follow up with just a few next steps and then wrap up.
Everyone wants to get to that, what is it, the happy hour, the virtual happy hour?
Yeah, I can talk about that for a second while we wait to see if we have any questions. So we do have a happy hour. That's our last session today. It's at 3 o'clock Central. And there are 2 different options. You can attend a virtual yoga session if you feel the need to relax after everything you've learned today, or you can also attend a session with Amanda Brinkman and Ty Pennington. They're the co-hosts of Small Business Revolution, and they'll just be sharing some behind-the-scenes information about what it's like to produce the series. So both sessions should be fun. If you can join us, that's our last hour of the day. So it doesn't look like we've had any questions come in, John. So thank you so much for your time, and thanks for sharing your advice and your expertise. For everyone attending the session, just a reminder that you'll get a recording in the coming days in case you want to listen to anything that you wanted to hear again, or if there were sessions that you couldn't make, you can go ahead and watch those recordings as well. So thank you all very much for joining our day. We hope you join us at the happy hour, and take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.